Okay, now we are on to the last video I have to record at least. Well, the picture you're seeing right here is a band that I have idolized since I was probably like 14 years old. And up until the past 5 days, this band right here has grown to be my utmost favorite. Sadly, the photo you are seeing here is the last photo of them together at their last show on, I believe it was August either 26th or 28th. I think it was a 2-day concert, but it was the 26th and 28th because I think they played twice. I'm not sure. All I know is sometime in August of 2001, literally weeks before I was born, this band never played again after they played that last show. But this is a worst to best ranking. A fair warning that the first 4 records, and I am going to rank their earlier stuff, but I'm going to rank them quick because it's not really material to who they are since the 90s and up until today, their legacy. But it definitely did, undoubtedly, based on the butterfly effect, shape who they became. But it all goes in order. You're going to see the records go in order of release as they are ranked worst to best up until we get to their studio recordings. They're going to move around a little bit. So at number 9, we have 1983. Yes, Pantera released a record the same year that Metallica released their first record, and people don't realize that. They had a vocalist by the name of Terry Glaze, and you'll hear what happened to him, and I'll get to it in a little while. You know, we're going to blow through these because these are kind of not great, but you can hear a lot of talent and ambition in a young Dimebag Darrell. And he actually, there's a solo on YouTube of him soloing around the time they toured this record, which was a very local, glam metal scene. And you'll notice a theme of glam metal up until, we start getting into the studio recordings. But basically, Metal Magic, it's good, but I haven't listened to many of the songs, to be honest. I should, but it doesn't feel right. It feels kind of creepy because a couple of songs I did listen to sounded like 80s, like nostalgia of like the 70s and 60s, and it just sounded like really haunting, and I didn't want to imagine it without Phil Anselmo, which is crazy to think of. So that's the way I'm fucking talking about that. Real quick, the other reason why up until the studio recordings release that these are all going to go in order is I'm not just doing that to be lazy. I actually truthfully believe that these records got better as they went up until Cowboys from Hell was released in 1990. These records continuously got better. Here we have 1984's Projects in the Jungle. I was just saying to myself for recording this that if I was a major label producer and I seen that a band had released music like this even still and it put so much effort into it and had named a record Projects in the Jungle, I would have signed them instantly. But that didn't happen, and it's good it didn't because history turned out to be even more epic. But I'm glad nobody signed them up until Cowboys. But Project in the Jungle, if you listen to it, it's a little bit better than Metal Magic, but you can still tell that Darrell was kind of stuck in his ways. The brothers were stuck in their glam ways for a little while there, but Terry Glaze eventually drove them away from it, and so did the change in music over time as well with the Master of Puppets, and at this time Ride the Lightning came out. I mean, they started to realize what was becoming the new wave because in the 80s metal was as popular as it ever has been. So, and that moves on to 1986's I Am the Night, last record with Terry Glaze. Terry Glaze had some strange, disgusting, almost borderline pedophilic kind of vocals, so they kicked him out after this record. But a couple of the songs on this album actually went onto their next record they recorded with Phil, which you will see. But this one was even better than Projects in the Jungle. It actually had like more of a Pantera sound, even though it was still definitely just hard classic rock up until what they would eventually become, which you wouldn't imagine a band starting out like this would become the monsters they did become. But I Am the Night is all right. Believe it or not, this record is not a label produced. but undoubtedly got them signed. But has Phil. You can see Anselmo right there. But this actually is good music. Most of the songs are still just rocky. It sounds more like Metallica than it does what Pantera. That it doesn't sound like groove or heavy, brutal metal. It just sounds like very, very hard rock or like some light heavy metal. But there's actually a song on this record that I would suggest you check out, and it's called Over and Out. And you can actually hear aspects of some Cowboys from Hell type vibes on it. And understandably so, because Cowboys from Hell came out 2 years later. Now we're into the studio albums. Now, this is where it gets a little flip-flopped. I think out of the studio records, I truly do believe that The Great Southern Trendkill is the worst. It's amazing. It has some of the most experimental music they've ever written in songs like Suicide Note Part 1, Floods, and Tens. But it is so brutal that in some parts it's actually too obnoxious, in my opinion. It's forced, is what this record is. A couple records I've talked about in the past couple rankings, and how I would describe a few records outside of the rankings of from other bands I'm not going to rank. That sometimes a band just is under so much pressure, and there's a lot of tension in this band, that even though like it's a Pantera record and it's epic regardless, it's still worth listening to. Out of their studio recordings, it sounds forced as a motherfucker. Listen to the title track, The Great Southern Trendkill. It's kind of obnoxious, except for Daryl's soul at the end. Dimebag Daryl, Vinnie Paul, and Rex Brown, and well, Phil had some brutal lyrics that went along with the whole entire energy of it, which all came together as one. But they saved that band, them three guys, because Phil wasn't even in the studio with the other three guys. He was in Trent Reznor's studio in New Orleans. So yeah, it was not fucking positive, but who gives a fuck? It's not supposed to be. It's edgy, it's brutal, and it's crazy, and I like it. Speaking of which, this is actually my favorite, just like with all the records. I can't put this higher than the other three, but this is my favorite Pantera record, is Remain the Steel. It's heavy front to back. There's no fucking ballads, which I do like ballads, but not as much as I like heavy metal. I don't like feeling depressed as much, but sometimes I still like the ballads. But anyways, this record is brutal from front to back. And even though it didn't debut as number one, and I think it's really heavier than Far Beyond Driven, Far Beyond Driven still technically has a ballad with Planet Caravan, which is their only cover too. But I think this record is their heaviest. It's brutal, and the tour for this record was their last, but they made it worth it, because the especially not even just the 2000 tour, the 2001 Extreme Steel tour, their last tour they ever did as the four original members, was fucking brutal, dude. You know, the four not original, but the most important, I should say, because they weren't the originals. Huh? Most of them were, though. Rex Brown, Paul, and Daryl obviously were originals, but Phil wasn't technically, but it doesn't matter. You can assume where this is going. Cowboys from Hell, great first studio record. This record is classic, is what you could call this record. It's not necessarily heavy. It is, but it's got the best musicianship, I'd say, from the band. Like Cemetery Gates, The Sleep, Medicine Man, Primal Concrete Sledge, the title track. Domination is heavy, though, and it still became a staple. I mean, they definitely did a good one with this record, because this record is actually epic. It's not even necessarily heavy or musically inclined. It's all of it. It's everything. It's their aesthetic record. It is the record that everyone goes to, is Cowboys from Hell. This record got them booked on a tour in Russia for the first time Russians seeing American bands after the collapse of the Soviet Union, on a bill with Metallica, AC/DC, and the Black Crowes. So tell me that Pantera isn't legendary for releasing this record. They threw these fucking Texas boys on a million people in attendance concert in '91. I think that's incredible, honestly. And they deserved it, though. I mean, look at this man right here. Daryl was... Look at all these men. They were fucking wild. Last two, like I said, you know where this is going. But the last two are so close, it's like, but I had to put Vulgar at number 2. Only reason I'm putting Vulgar at 2, I'll explain when we get to Driven, is that it's a little It's so close to what Driven became. And honestly, if they hadn't released Driven, like if any other type of record came out besides the way they did Beyond Driven, then this would be the number one for sure. But it's so close. But many people put Vulgar at number one. Many people actually put Driven at 2. But Vulgar is even more classic somehow than Cowboys. It's like after they released Cowboys, it got better and better and better. Until Driven, when Phil started using hard drugs, and that's what ultimately, I think they would have gotten even heavier over time, and then eventually would have flamed out like every band, but still. It was epic the way Cowboys, Vulgar, and Driven all succeeded each other in 2-year spans. Very epic, awesome tours after each, and it was legendary. But anyways, there are timeless classics in here, like This Love, Fucking Hostile, A New Level, Walk is the biggest Pantera song. Everyone loves that fucking song. Regular People, Conceit, No Good, Attack the Radical. Rise is a good one. Hollow is a classic sad ballad. Just everything about this record is just heavy. Mouth for War. Yeah, everything except I think Live in a Hole is the only song I didn't care for too much, but I think that sets it back from Driven, but yeah. Far Beyond Fucking Driven by Pantera. This record is, besides Planet Caravan, which it was smart of them to put it at the end, by the way, from front to back, is brutal, is mastercrafted, is lyrically inclined, is top tier, exemplary, superior, insurmountable, and elite. This record, undoubtedly, once they set this thing out on the shelves, Pantera had become permanent music legends, and they still kept releasing music afterwards. But this was the record that both made the band and destroyed the band, because the fame went to everyone's heads, but it went to Mr. Anselmo's the most, and he's my favorite, so I'm not saying that because I don't like him. I think Bill Anselmo's my favorite person in music ever, and he doesn't even play an instrument. He was the most dominant person ever. Big, huge, not even just his stature, his mindset was above everyone's. He was quite literally stronger than all, in my opinion. And he believed it too. That's what mattered. He didn't give a fuck about anyone. And he made it known. He wasn't scared to die. And he was a big boy. Besides the point. Strength beyond strength. Becoming. I'm broken. 5 minutes alone. Good friends and a bottle of pills. Hard lines and sunken cheeks. Slaughtered 25 years shedding skin. Use my third arm. Throes of rejection. And Planet Caravan. In that order, again, it's another one of them records. I'm ending this at 14 minutes. It's another one of those records. Nothing can be said about it other than it is purely epic. Front to back. Spin this motherfucker. Front to back 3-4 times before you even think about falling asleep. And definitely drink a beer. Love you guys. Peace and love. Subscribe, like, turn on the bell. Appreciate you. Not going back. Enjoy your life. And peace.